Raj, I think maybe some adjustment need to be made there, I think, because it's humming.
That's okay.
Is it just the volume, you think?
Yeah, the volume.
Okay.
So turn it down a bit,
Yeah. Can you hear in the back? Okay. All right. Good. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rutra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramo Panishadaihi Yayanti Ankamaga Dhyanavastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidusura suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. There's seats and available here. Why don't you all come, or some of you, it's being so far away, please come. So today we will revise the chapter, 5th chapter. So the 5th chapter is called Sannyasa Yoga. So I'll do somewhat of a quick revision because we've already done quite a bit of it, so you get the essence of what the chapter says. So it is called Sannyasa Yoga, means, so going back a little bit before that, so if you analyze the equipment that we are born with, which Ishvara has given us, we didn't create it ourselves, but we are given this equipment when we are born, and that is Jnana-indriya and Karma-indriya. So equipment for knowing and the equipment for responding to the knowledge. So all of the things that we received, including eyes, ears, etc., skin, nose, is for knowing things, to cognize things. And then our karma indriyas, in the form of hands and legs and speech, etc., are to respond to the knowledge. So these two are the two basic sets of equipment that we are endowed with, every one of us, and not only human beings but even other forms. In the case of plant kingdom also, in a very rudimentary form, it actually, people have done all the experiments, it has both these two forms of equipment. It knows, for example, the sunflower, it knows where the sun is and turns itself. And so it uses both karma indriya and jnana indriya in doing so. But in the discussion that we are interested in, which is the human being, these are the two sets of equipment. And the two sets of equipment are ultimately responsible for giving me complete freedom. Because the goal of life is to find total unconditional freedom. This is really the goal of everybody's life. The joy of discovering unlimited knowledge, unlimited understanding is common to everyone. It's not just this is what's underlying the very common elements of all human beings. So this is very fundamental. And the way to gain freedom is through these two equipments, two sets of equipments, jnana indriya and karma indriya. So this should be understood and evaluated in that manner. So now, given this situation, the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita focuses on two basic points to go along with the two sets of equipment, karma indriya and jnana indriya. So one is called karma and the other one is jnana. So in terms of the presentation, there is only two forms of yoga. So yoga means an accomplishment. So yoga really means accomplishment, to be successful. This is the real meaning of yoga, really. And so the accomplishment is done in two ways. One is karma yoga and the other one is jnana yoga. This is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So here, this is why the word yoga is used. So karma, action in our life, any attempt to do things need not be yoga. Doesn't have to be yoga. But if the karma can be used appropriately in a yoga, then it becomes karma yoga. Similarly, jnanam, knowledge, until it is employed as a yoga, just stays as a knowledge. Like, for example, you can just know some things, history, geography, science, technology. This is also jnanam. But the jnanam cannot become jnana yoga until you understand the utility of knowledge. What is? So this is called jnana yoga. Going back to karma yoga for a minute, every person that is born is endowed with doing things. Even a baby, he would grasp things and do things, walk, whatever it is. Karma indriya is used. So it's not as though it is something very difficult. The difficulty is to utilize karma as a yoga. This is where it is. So one example given in where acharyas used to say that suppose you have a child and you are carelessly leaving some knives along. Some knife, some sharp knife is there. And as you know very well, any child, the first thing that the child does is to put things around it in the mouth. And these things happen. These accidents happen. So now this is a very interesting thing. The knife is a very sophisticated instrument. Everybody needs to have a knife in their home. Without that, it is difficult to live, to be able to cut things, to so on and so forth. But to not know the knife and how it will be utilized is a very important thing, because you can hurt yourself. If you know how to use a knife, it can be very beautiful. So also for karma. Karma, we all act, we all accomplish things, but if we don't know the utility of action for my own benefit, I am like a child that hurts myself. And in fact, really speaking, if you look at the nature of the hurtful karma, it is done for my immediate gratification, for immediate accomplishment, and it strengthens my sense of limitation. So I do some things, I'm happy with what I do, but after a while the effect passes and I'm right back to where I am before. And the sense of accomplishment, a sense of limitation rather, carries on. There's no change in it. So this is a harmful way of doing karma. Anyway, going back to the revision of the chapter 5, what should said is that, as I mentioned before, the Gita, the two main topics of Gita are Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And herein, some confusion can occur in the minds of people, as in the case of Arjuna. He thinks that both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga are parallel paths, each one of which can give me freedom. So in the description of the first few chapters, Krishna describes the nature of knowledge, the nature of karma, and Arjuna is grappling with it, asking questions and so on and so forth. And he begins the chapter 5th in this form of a dialogue, because the teaching is in the form of, this is what is called samvada. Samvada, vada means a discussion. And so the prefix samvada means a discussion between a teacher and a student. Vivada means a discussion between two people who are fighting. And so person A says, you're wrong, I am right, and the person B says, no, you are wrong, I am right. This is called vivada. Because both the vadas, both the discussions are endowed with some doubts. I don't understand it. I'm not clear about it. Samvada, on the other hand, expresses the doubts of the student saying, I know you're telling me this, but I don't understand it. So in the samvada, it doesn't mean that you are fighting. It just means that honestly, I am not with you. You have a certain vision about things and I don't get it. Can you please explain this to me? This is called samvada. So in the very beginning, the first verse of the 5th chapter, Arjuna and Krishna, of course, are having a samvada. And in fact, if you remember, let's look at the last line. Remember that? We did that last time. Om Tat Sat iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. In this discussion of between Krishna and Arjuna, Sannyasa Yogo Nama Panchamo Adhyaya. This is how all the chapters become. It was Samvada. So this Samvada begins by Arjuna expressing his doubt, perhaps even frustration. Because Krishna has been teaching him for a while, and he now asks Arjuna Uvacha, Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam sa shamsasi yat shreyaha etayoho ekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. He says, Krishna, you have praised sannyasam and yogam. So please understand, so sometimes this is one of the things in the Bhagavad Gita is that there are synonyms used and they don't appear to be synonyms. So here sannyasam means jnana yoga. How does it mean jnana yoga? So sannyasa means someone who is committed to study, not to participate in life's activities. And we see this. People who are just really interested in just studying. And there's a problem, and how are you making your ends meet? That's a separate thing. We have to discuss that. But the main thing is, sannyasa means that I'm giving up my responsibility towards the world. I just want to study. The other one is yoga, punar yogam sa shamsasi. Yoga means that no, you cannot just devoid yourself. You have to participate in the action. There is a society, there are people to be helped, and you cannot just do that. You are shirking your responsibility. This is not right. You should really become active and happy and so on and so forth. So this has been talked about. The karma yoga and jnana yoga has been talked about. Now Arjuna says, listen Krishna, you are praising both of them. Sometimes you are saying sannyasa is better, sometimes you say karma is better, so sometimes you say jnana yoga is better, sometimes you say karma yoga is better. I am confused. So he says, sannyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam sa shamsasi yat shreyaha etayoho ekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. Can you please just be very clear? Tell me which one is better. You cannot say that sometimes you say this is the best, this is wonderful. Then you come up with another talk which says, no, really yogam is the one you should really do. And so can you please clarify which one I should do? This is his question. Then in the second one, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So and so before we even do this, here is the answer, the genesis of the answer we should understand. The genesis of the answer is that whether you should do jnana yoga or you should do karma yoga depends upon your stage of preparation. They are neither good nor bad. Neither is one superior to the other. In fact, both are essential. This is a clear message. This is why some of the confusion in understanding the Bhagavad Gita comes in. That there are three methods. There is Bhakti Yoga, there is Karma Yoga, there is Jnana Yoga, and then I should do one or the other. Which one is easier? Tell me about all of this. And people fight and say, those guys are just, they're just studying, they're bookish people. What you really need to do is go to a temple and pray. This is how Ishvara will bless. So there's all kinds of contentions and so on and so forth. So the Gita says, neither is one superior to the other. It all depends on where you are in your preparation. And I will explain this, but be very clear about it, that whether you resort to sannyasa or to karma yoga, it all is a function of where you are. And in fact, this is number one. Corollary to this is the fact both are necessary. The only exception to this is that if you had done karma adequately in your previous life, you can straight away go into sannyasa yoga. And this becomes very obvious in certain cases where you find that the children, when they grow up, they have an inner sense of something. This is exactly what happened with Raman Maharshi. And so many others also, not just Raman Maharshi. Excuse me. So there you find that the child is not really interested in participating in games and this, that, or the other. They are just on their own. In the case of Raman Maharshi, for example, it is very well recognized. It is why it is a recent case, so that we know about it, that he just was a loner. He was just a thinker. And really, people will say something wrong with you. Why can't you just behave normally like others? Let's play. And he did not. Because that means that he was straight away into sannyasa yoga. This is the exception. Generally speaking, however, you have to employ both of them. And in fact, it's interesting, there are three methods of, this is the lifestyle. So these questions that are being discussed here have to do with lifestyles. So there are three possibilities of lifestyles. One is that you become a sannyasi from the very beginning. You are just a brahmachari. You don't want to get married. Your parents say, should we find a spouse for you? Happens both ways. What happens? Swami Viditatmananda, for example, he has lots of teachers and swaminis who are women, and they were attracted to the teaching. And I'm sure every parent wants their children to be married, at least in India. They are, especially boys, because boys bring some money and they can support and so on and so forth. But even women now, they're saying, please get married and just go somewhere. And these brahmacharinis, when they heard, they say, Swamiji, I am not interested in any family things. I just want to study this. And this is one of the things that the teachers evaluate. They'll say, okay, well, I don't know whether I will accept you, but please keep coming and then let me discuss it with you. Discuss it with the parents. And if they find that the child has a certain, is an advanced thinker, is able to look at things. It is not just a shirking of responsibilities. That's the other problem. because you feel, this is, to do things and go to school and get educated. It's just a lot of problem. I don't want to do that. So what do you want to do? I just want to lay around and play just games. No. Then that's not proper. But if a person is a very intelligent person and can think through that this is just a problem, then I will just stay as a sannyasi. I remember so this I'll tell you about my own personal case in a minute, but 3 lifestyles are given. One is you straight away become a sannyasi. The second one is where you begin by being a karmi, a doer, a participator in family, then later on you take sannyasa. And the third one is you continue to be a householder all your life and never really take sannyasa as a lifestyle. That doesn't mean that your understanding is not there, but as a lifestyle you stay as a... So these are the 3 ones. So I say, sometimes I feel this is all Ishvara's doing and so on. So when just to give you my own personal situation, I guess I was about 73, 32. Yeah, I think 32 when I met Swami Chinmayananji. But before that, when the discussions were taking place in my family about, you've now graduated and so on and so forth, what do you want to do? And I felt that, I'll be like a normal person, I'll get married. And so my parents, I was here in this country, and my parents started looking for, and they said, do you want to get married in the West? So I said, well, at that time I wanted to go back to India. So I said, no, I think I'll come back and get married. So my mother said, okay, we'll start looking for a girl for you. And they found one, and the very first one I got married, and so on. Then much later, I met Swami Chinmayananda. And now my life was set, because I cannot walk out on my wife. Even though I'd like to, actually. No, don't tell her that. No, I mean saying is that now my responsibilities are to go through with it. But at the same time, really my life has changed. And I feel sorry for my wife, because I'm not the normal kind that goes around to parties and do this, that, or the other. I want to study, and she recognizes it. So that's the other lifestyle. And I don't think I'll ever take sannyasa, because I have to fulfill my duties for it and so on. And it's not necessary either. So, going back to karma yoga and jnana yoga, Krishna is saying, listen, there is nothing intrinsically superior of one or the other. It all depends on where you are in your life. This is what he's saying in verse number 2. Sannyasah karma yogascha nishreyasa karau ubhau. He says both of them can lead to total freedom. A sense of engagement and a sense of disengagement. Both can lead to total freedom. Tayoho tu karma sannyasat karma yogaha vishishyate. So he says, out of the two, I think karma yoga is better rather than sannyasa yoga. Why did he say that? He knew where Arjuna was in his state. Here it's interesting. I remember this so well. There was a student who approached Swami Dayanandji And in fact, this is, by the way, a very famous event in the case of Ramana Maharshi. I think I've said that before in some classes, but I'll repeat it. Both of them are similar. So there was a student of Ramana Maharshi who was, and used to come to his satsangs every day for years. So one day he said, Swamiji, I need to talk to you. And at that time he had a family and he had some friends, some children. And so Swami Ramana Maharshi knew him as a person. So he says, sir, I need to talk to you. He says, yes, what do you want to talk about? He says, I want to take sannyasa. Do I have your permission? So Ramana Maharshi talked to him and he said, first of all, no. You don't have my permission. And by the way, I don't want to have a discussion about it with you because you will not understand. Come back a year later and we'll have a discussion again. So this guy was very disappointed that at least he should have told me why. But he was such a good student, he said, okay, whatever you say, sir. So he kept quiet for a year. A year later, he went back to him. He said, sir, do I have your permission now? So Ramana Maharshi, I read this in a book, actually. Ramana Maharshi said, the answer is still no. But this time, I will tell you the reason why I'm saying no. So he says, okay, tell me the reason. He says, in observing you and your discussions, you are looking at your family as a burden. That is the reason you should not take a sannyasa. And I won't give it to you. And until you figure out, if you think your family is a burden, you have to keep transacting with them until they no longer appear as a burden to you. Their children are gone, you fulfill your duties, and then you can come to me and I will consider it. And in fact, many of the people that approach the Swamis, their main argument, and I know this in the case of Swami Tattvavidananda Ji, because I had a discussion with him on this, and I think I'll be open, there's nothing. When he approached Swami Dayanand for sannyasa, because he was a married person and so on, he convinced him that first of all, I have done everything that I could. I've raised a family and so on and so forth. And I feel I can be more helpful as a full-time teacher than I can be in working in this, because he was a scientist, he was working for a chemical company, and then having a household and had a few friends. He says, my contribution to the society will be more if I could be a teacher. Swamiji agreed with him. He says, okay. This is one case. Another case was, Swamiji was saying that the person approached him, and in fact, he was in Sarasburg. So Swamiji was in US, and there was an Indian man with a family who approached him and said, Swamiji, I'm wondering whether I should go back to India or stay here, because I want to study more and this, that, or the other. What's your advice? And Swamiji said, no, stay right here, don't go back to India. And later on, Swamiji told me, just in a satsang, or when he says, and the reason I said no to him was, I've had cases of people saying, Swamiji, I am definitely going to go to India, and I just need your blessings. And I said, that's fine. But if a person has doubts whether I should go back to India or not, that means he is not ready to go back to India. This is the essence of the second verse. So he says that even though both sannyasa and karma yoga nishreyasa karau ubhau, both of them lead to tayostu karma yoga sannyasat karma yoga vishishyate. He says, I think karma yoga is better than jnana yoga. Why? This is exactly like this person who asked Swamiji, should I go back to India or not? Can you please give me sannyasa or not? That means you are not ready yet. You have doubts in your mind. As long as you have doubts, the key thing to do is continue with your life. So here, Krishna has ascertained that Arjuna is not ready for sannyasa. This is why the whole message of the Bhagavad Gita is continue to fight. That means continue to lead an active life and don't shirk away from your responsibilities. While you are doing it, turn your attention towards the deeper meaning of study. That's okay. But for you to give up everything, it's not going to work. And I remember Swami Dayananji giving this example. He says, picture this. Picture this. So Arjuna, who has been trained as a leader, he's very recognized as one of the most accomplished archers. He is highly regarded as a very skilled warrior. And in these emotions of understanding not dharma and adharma, he gives up. And he says, you know what? You've been telling me that meditation is wonderful. You should just be quiet and just be yourself. And I never really believed in it. But now I think this whole war thing is it's not for me. Because I'm getting people killed. People are killing my people. And I've suddenly realized, what is the reason for this? I just want to meditate and go to Rishikesh and live in it as a sadhu. This is what I'm going to do. So Krishna says, don't. You can't do that. Why not? What's wrong with it? Krishna says, okay, you want me to paint a picture for you? I can see the future as what will happen. All right, so you go to Rishikesh and you will build a small hut. And then you'll just live there and you'll feel, oh my God, I am so happy. I don't want to, I'm not involved in the war or anything. Why didn't I do this before? This is wonderful. I'm so happy I gave up all of this. Second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, 5 days you'll be happy. Sixth day, you will ask someone, hey, how is that war going? How is it going? The person says, what war? I don't know. He says, the war between Kauravas and Pandavas. He says, well, I don't know how it's going. I understand that the biggest warrior among Pandavas quit. So he says, oh my God. The sixth day or seventh day, your mind will be not in studying, but in what's happening. You'll be look at Times of India to say, well, how is the war going on? He says it's not going to happen. Your whole samskara is towards activity. You cannot suddenly give it up. It's not possible. And then you cannot go back because nobody would accept you. It's a one way. Don't do it. So Krishna knows all of this. So he tells me, he says, Tayostu karma sannyasat karma yoga vishishyate. So knowing where you are, do karma yoga. That is the best one. And then he praises karma yoga in verse number 3. He says, Jneyah saha nitya sannyasi yo na dveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. So here, Swami Paramarthananda from Chennai had got a beautiful commentary on this verse. I remember this so well. He said that, so Arjuna must have asked him, is it possible that I get the benefits of both of them? How so? It means that I want to be engaged in the war, and yet I get the benefits of a sannyasi. Is that possible? Krishna says, yes. Good question. That's possible. How? He says, the way you do that, this is what I've been telling you all along. If you use karma as a yoga, you get the benefits of being a sannyasi. And what do you mean by that? Using karma as a yoga? This is exactly the knife example. If you learn how to use a knife carefully. You know, the other day, so we have about 5 knives in our home. And now they're getting blunt. And the thing is that when you peel, I take the peel off of apple. The other day my granddaughter was saying, Papa, why do you peel your apple? The best part is the... So I said, the skin of the apples upsets my tummy. This is really true. So from the very beginning I get a little stomach ache. And so I always peel it off. And so when I was peeling it off, it was very, very blunt. And so I went to this farmer's market. They have a guy that polishes all the... And I got all the knives. Now the darn thing is so sharp that I almost cut my finger. So the thing is that karma is the same way. It's a very, very sophisticated equipment given to us, how to behave with others, how to transact, how to do this, that, or the other. And if you do that properly, it is a sharp knife. It can be beautiful. If you don't do it, it can really hurt you. I have an interesting case that happened last night. I'll just give you an example of that. So my wife and I had gone to a small restaurant in Los Altos with another couple, so we were having dinner together. And as we were coming out, there is another friend of ours who were also in the restaurant, and they also finished there, but we didn't see them. So they also came out. When they were coming out, the owner of the restaurant also was saying goodbye to them. So this woman turned to the owner and said, listen, why did you give us this bad seat when the rest of the rest of the restaurant is half empty? I mean, we were taken aback by this. And she was, you could have said, hey, I wish you had given me. She started fighting with him and said, why did you give us this bad seat when they were so empty? So the fellow says, madam, there were about 2 parties that had made reservations and they didn't show up. So what could I do? You did not make a reservation. And now she's fighting with them. And she's shouting and that I've been coming to your place for so long and you treated me like this and so on. I tell you, my wife and I felt embarrassed. I'm very happy that, in fact, my wife went back to him and later on and said, that was not right. And you handled it very well. He was very polite and so on and so forth. This is a classic example of karma not becoming a karma yoga. Classic example, I'll show you why. They had a meal and they were, hopefully the meal was okay. I don't know, I hope they were happy with it and so on. And to spoil it by accusing the person that you didn't treat us right and creating a scene there, it's an older person. Is this what you've learned in your life? You're making yourself unhappy. You're making others unhappy. So, and the person did the right thing. He said that, I'm sorry, you did not have a reservation. You accept it. This is karma yoga, where your attitude is completely different. So look at this now. Ye yaha sa nitya sannyasi yaha na dveshti na kankshati. Dveshti means that you have some kind of a strong reaction, almost like a hatred. And kankshati means and the reason you do dveshti is because you kankshati, means you really want it very badly. Misuse of karma. So Krishna tells Arjuna, yes, that's a good question. You can have advantages of both. You act out in your life, but in a way where your mind becomes softer. You become more tolerant. Whatever happens, it's okay. There are things going on. In this particular case, the restaurant person did not do anything wrong at all. So for you to question that was even worse. But supposing a restaurant person was actually wrong, even then, do not pick fights. Just don't go to that person again, if you want to do that. But be polite. And another thing, very interesting thing, one thing as you study this Vedanta, and you become a serious student of this, difficult to do, but supposing you are really sincere in your efforts to do so, the one thing that we should all strive for is not to get upset at anything. And not just upset at others. Don't get upset with yourself. Don't allow your mind to get upset. This is very crucial. You need to have a sense of sameness. And that can only happen if you learn to forgive and forget. Even if somebody does wrong, it's so interesting. There's a 4-way stop sign in Los Altos where I live. And most people, when they come to the four stop signs and so on, they observe the laws. Laws meaning if somebody came in before you did, you allow them to go. Once in a while, some wild people, they go 2 cars in a row because they're in a rush and something like that. Now you can actually get very upset by this and start honking, and he says, hey, why did you go? It was my turn, and so on and so forth. And you can say, you know what, they're crazy people. Let them go. What harm does it have? So this is the very crucial thing. You do not cut your nose. What does it say?
Spite the face.
To spite the face, you don't cut the nose.
Spite the other fellow.
Just say, let it go. So to maintain an equanimity is a very important thing. And the way you can do that, because things are going to happen in your life. People are going to upset you, situations are going to upset you, and so on. And you cannot say, this is not right. I have a right to be upset. Okay, be upset. Then the very next thing you want to study and you don't have the time to, you cannot have, because you're still upset. So the main thing is to learn not to get upset. This is exactly this verse number 3 is saying. This is the essence of it. Gyeyaha sa nitya sannyasi yaha na dveshti na kankshati nirdvando hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. He says this is exactly like if you learn how to use a sharp knife, your life will become very pleasant. You take a knife, you cut things, you put them back where they belong, and your whole way of dealing with things becomes very good. Similarly here also, your transactions with the world should be used to learn how not to lose your cool. And it's not as though it's going to happen overnight, but learn slowly. There is no use getting upset. No one else is harmed except yourself. And don't say, but yeah, the other person deserved it. Fine, whatever it is. And there was a story about Swami Maheshwaranji had written this. So apparently there was a Mahatma who had an ashram. And so students used to come and live there, and there was a caretaker of the whole ashram, some manager of the ashram. And so one day the manager approached the Mahatma and said, "Sir, some of the people that live here, they are behaving badly and they're fighting with each other. And I don't know what to do." So he says, just tell them to behave themselves and it'll be okay. Just you talk to them. Then after a while he says, "Sir, whatever I tell them is not working. They are creating a scene. They're always fighting with each other. I think you need to talk to them." So the Mahatma told him, "Listen, I don't want to spoil my mood by telling them. He says, Ishvara's wish, whatever they want to do is on their own. I will tell them just very quietly, but do not expect me to shout and talk to them in a very, very firm way, because that means that I am disturbing my own equanimity. Is that clear to you?" The person said, "Sir." So then he went back and he says, "Do not talk to the Swami. You just otherwise," so he dealt with them in his own way, some or the other. This is the essence of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, in summary, means utilizing the actions not for your immediate gain. Like, for example, this friend of ours, by shouting and so on and so on. She was not shouting, but she was clearly saying, "Why did you do this?" Your hands were like this. I don't know. I'm not going to come to your place again. Hey, my wife and I both looked at each other and he said, "Thank goodness we're not doing it." He was a little bit more mature than that. So what? What's the big thing? So really speaking, Karma Yoga means learning in your life to slowly dealing with situations in a manner whether neither you are criticizing others, unless you have to in a very essential way, that's okay. Neither you disturb yourself. Here, another interesting example is sometimes, when all of us have had children, when the children misbehave, sometimes, there are two ways of dealing with it. One is to really be angry at them, upsetting your own things and so on. The other way, and this is what I remember many times my wife and I would do this, we would look at each other and sort of wink at each other and says, "Now is the time to get angry." that means it is controlled anger. And so we would discuss who wants to do it. So we decide that. So one of us will say, you know, I've told this many times, and you keep really making the same mistake. This is not acceptable. This is not acceptable. Please don't do this again. If you do that, some consequences will happen. This is not anger. This is controlled anger with a full. Angry means that you hit somebody and then you lose your own cool. That's very different. That is normal karma. Exactly what this friend does. But a controlled anger is where you say, you know, this is not right, you shouldn't be doing this. You do your duty, but do not push yourself out of shape. Beautiful expression that I learned in the West. Even when I was growing up in India, this was to be pushed out of shape. Pushed out of shape means that if you have a spring, if you pull it so much that it cannot go back to the original shape, that means pushed out of shape. So the very function of the Karma Yoga is to not be pushed out of shape. Bend if you can, bend if you have to, but just stay with your equanimity. So this is the essence of the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Then, as though to make this point very clear, Krishna says in number 4 that those who say that sannyasa and karma yoga, jnana yoga and karma yoga, are two parallel paths, don't know what they're talking about. This is so wrong. It is not. Karma yoga is preparing your mind for equanimity so your knowledge becomes your own. You accept yourself and you inquire within yourself and you understand the enormity of this knowledge. And non-karma yoga means that you are just acting out in life for immediate gratification. And if you think these two are parallel paths, there is something that you don't understand. This is what he's saying. Sankhya yogao prithak balaha pravadanti na panditaha ekam api asthitaha samyak ubhayoho vindate phalam. So here another thing to note here is Sankhya and yoga. So this is, I was telling you about the synonym. The synonym business, it can really, this is an important thing to see in Bhagavad Gita. Sankhya here means jnana yoga. And yoga means karma yoga. So Sankhya yoga means jnana yoga and karma yoga. Prithak balaha pravidanti na panditaha. He says that these two are separate from each other. Only the balaha means one who do not understand. So balaha means children, but balaha here in this context means ones who are not thinking people, because the children are not thinking people, they just do it. They have not yet become mature enough to think. So he says, Sankhya yoga prithak balaha pravadanti na panditaha. Not the wise people who have become mature. So here pandita doesn't mean the temple priest, but a mature person, a sadhu. He says they don't consider these to be as separate. In fact, ekam api asthitaha samyak ubhayoho vindate phalam. That means that by resorting In fact, there's a mistake here. Oh no, it's okay. Restoring. No, I think it's a mistake. Should be resorting. I think there is a mistake in both in the sentence as well as the word. By resorting to any one of them properly, one attains the clause is the result of both. In other words, you have to. You have. It's not cannot just be foolhardy and say I'm just a karma yoga, I'm a karmi, and I'm a sannyasi. Can't do that. You have to look at the interrelationships, how one affects the other. So because even a sannyasi has to be a karma yogi. In fact, more so. In fact, interesting, life in a ashram is very hard. Very hard. Let me tell you. Why is it harder than the outside? Because in the outside world, where you have not taken a sannyasa, you can be much more open to each other. That, you know, you didn't do this right, you were supposed to do this, etc., etc. If my wife tells me that, you know, just the other day, what was she telling me? Something to buy something, and I didn't do it. And she says, "Hey, you were supposed to get it done." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about it. I'll do it. I'll do it." In ashram, you don't do these kinds of things. You cannot say, "Hey, you were supposed to do this. What happened to you?" You have to be just quiet, and you cannot really assert yourself. And so, what happens is internally, if you're not ready, that just eats away into you. And then, I know this for a fact because people will go to Swami Dayanandji and he says, "Swamiji, that person really bugs me. And he was supposed to do this." And Swamiji, of course, is a very difficult situation because they're all children of his. So they'll say, no, it's okay. It's all right. Yes, just be okay. He is the person it is. You just do it. Difficult life, I tell you. And so the sannyasi also has to understand how to deal with people. And a karma yogi alone, of course, understands how to deal with others. And to become a sannyasi, while you are acting, you have to be a sannyasi. How? Because when I talked about not disturbing your equanimity, that is becoming a sannyasi. In fact, the goal of life is enjoying your own sense of peace, regardless of what is happening outside. This is the So, you know, it is not like self-knowledge means all of a sudden you will give you the understanding about the Atma and then you suddenly something comes up and then now you are free. And it's not happening like that. It is to accept yourself slowly and don't lose your cool in becoming anatma. And you have to learn slowly how to do that. And the more you do, the more it says, this is working. I don't have to just expect people to behave in a certain way. Let them do what they want to. If I am responsible for their behavior, fine, I'll do something. But the main issue is that I don't accept myself. When you should inquire into them, you have a total freedom. To see that is the very goal of life. This is what one has to do. So what I'm saying is that the karmi also is a sannyasi. This is what he's saying. Geyaha nirdvandohi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. That if you, in number 3, that if you really learn to accept behaviors of people, and to look at your sense of completeness, which is yours, but you have not accepted it, then you become a sannyasi while you are acting. So this is what he says that in number 4, that if you think of them as completely separate from each other, then you don't know what you're talking about. You're a balaha, you're not a panditaha. But ekam api asthitaha samyak ubayoho vindate phalam. If you understand the interplay between them and see how one affects the other and use that in order to appreciate yourself, pardon me again, ubayoho, then the effects of both of them you will gain. Both of them meaning that you will have a certain nice relationship with the world outside, and more importantly, you will accept yourself as a peaceful person. So this is the method of number 4. Then in number 5, he reiterates that Yat sankhyaih prapyate sthanam tat yogaih api gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yapashyati sapashyati. He says that really speaking, the person who accomplishes the goal is the same through either method. Either you become very active or you accept the fact that your main lifestyle is study. Either one of them. So this is a question of lifestyle. But the goal remains the same. The goal is the sense of freedom which is common to all of us. And so how you get there is a different thing, with skill. But to say that, no, study is not important, only karma is important, or only karma is not important, only study is important, it's not as simple. It's not as cut and dry like that. Let's see if there was something on this commentary that I'm missing. Let me see from my own notes from the last time. Number 5. I'm not getting verse number 8 or 9. Yeah. No, I think that's pretty much it. I think I can do one more verse. So let's do one more verse and then we will do that. Number 6. So with number 6, with the verse number 6, Krishna completes a section which began with verse number 2 as the answer to Arjuna's question, where the lifestyle is discussed as a preparation. So this is the topic. The question is not which one is, so remember this is the thing. Neither is karma yoga better, neither is karma jnana yoga better. It depends on where you are. This is called a lifestyle question. So that topic is completed with number 6. So let's just finish that. So he says, Sannyasastu Mahabaho Dukkham Aptum Ayogataha Yoga Yukto Munir Brahma Na Achirena Digachati. And so he adds some very interesting element to this. He says, Sannyasaha he Mahabaho. Mahabaho means the one with long hands. They say that Arjuna's hands, when he's standing up, would extend up to his knees. And so he had enormous power in his hand. This is what is called Mahabaho. And so, hey Mahabaho, he says, Sannyasaha Dukkham Aptum Ayogataha. He summarizes this section by saying, hey Arjuna, sannyasa is not possible without going through karma yoga. Karma yoga. Without karma yoga, you cannot go to jnana yoga. So the two are not competing, they are in fact one after the other. You must prepare your mind with karma yoga in order to become eligible for jnana yoga. Very similar to this is the case that supposing you the requirement for knowledge, in requirement for the knowledge to become effective is the right background, eligibility and preparation. You cannot say, it's exactly like this. Is PhD in quantum mechanics better, or is elementary physics in high school better? Which one is better? Please tell me. Hey, it's not a question of, they're not competing things. If you want, it all depends on what you want to do. If you just want to take some basic physics, and then you are really more of an artist. Supposing you say that I want to be an artist, and indeed you have good artistic abilities and so on, fine. Then complete your high school at least, which requires some physics, some chemistry, some history, all going everything. Fine, that's fine. But if you want to do research in quantum mechanics, you need to continue to study more until you get to that point. No, I don't want to do that. Why can't I just apply for PhD at Stanford? Can't do that. You can apply, you might even be accepted. If your father gave them $1 million, Stanford will say, sure, you'll come to the class. And then there's all these equations and so on and so forth. And after a while you'll say, what the heck is this? I don't get any of this. The class in Vedanta is not any different. Really. Na antah pragyam, na bahar pragyam, na ubhayato pragyam, as we did in the Mandukya class. It looks like gobbledygook. Until you've done some preparation, and then you say, oh, I see. Then you start to slowly get into it. So he says, Sannyasastu Mahabaho Dukkham Aptum Ayogataha. He says, without karma yoga, which means a lot of preparation, Sannyasaha here means jnana yoga. Remember the synonyms. Sankhya is jnana yoga. Jnanam is jnana yoga, and sannyasaha jnana yoga. These are all synonyms of the same thing. So jnana yoga is very difficult without karma yoga. Getting PhD in Stanford is very difficult without doing physics 101, 201, 301, 401. then it becomes, yes, I can understand it. So he says, Yoga yukto munir brahma na achirena gacchati. That if your mind has been prepared through the proper use of action in your life, it's very easy. Very easy. You can just get it right away. Then, so with verse, I'll stop at this point, that with this verse, the topic of the lifestyle and the placement, relative placement of Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga in answer to questions by Arjuna in the very first verse, which says, tell me which one is better. And the answer is, none of them is superior to the other. It depends on where you are. Sir, this topic is now finished, and a new topic will begin with verse number 7, which we will take up next time. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yes, sir.
In one of the books it says Samuchayavad is not the proper way.
Correct.
Just like you said. So you have the knowledge, like you said, we are studying Veda, but you have to practice it, so that is Karma Yoga. And
Let's not bring that up, this Samuchaya and so on. I think we should just answer questions from what is discussed today. I would much prefer to do that. That is a separate topic. We'll do that some other time. Okay?
But don't you?
No, there's no such thing as a practice.
Karma Yoga is not practice.
No. What I'm saying is that you cannot say after I get knowledge, then I will practice it. That's a separate topic.
Oh.
Yeah, let's not bring that up. Okay? Yeah. Any questions from others? Yeah.
So, you mentioned in a couple of lectures before, I think it was today, about how Karma Yoga is like the path that goes to the hill and the top of the hill.
Correct.
That is what in the previous lecture you mentioned, and today also you reaffirmed that.
Yeah.
There are two paths. So, if those are the two paths, can you little bit give an advance look ahead? Why is Bhakti Yoga even talked about by Bhagavan?
So Bhakti Yoga is an augment to both of them. It was well discussed in our literature and so on. So Bhakti Yoga is augmented to both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga in the following manner. In terms of Karma Yoga, so the bhakti means a prayerful attitude. That's what bhakti means, isn't it? That's what bhakti means. So the question is, bhakti towards who? The answer is that the precursor to bhakti is to recognize the presence of the Creator, Ishvara. And number one. Number two, bhakti means an aid, A-I-D, as a support for making I'm looking at Karma Yoga now, making my Karma Yoga effective. How? So what happens is that it is easy for us to say that become tolerant towards others. Because situations occur where they are very troubling. In order for me to cope up with this troubling situation, I have to resort to bhakti. I have to say, Ishvara, I don't know why you're creating this thing for me. I have no idea, but you must have a good reason. I accept it. Okay? Please help me. By this attitude, you have a better chance of developing the qualities of tolerance and so on and so forth, which leads to self-acceptance. And if you don't have that, you have a sense that there is no one in charge. And so for you to react to situations are much more prone to happen if you feel there is no one in charge. I can do anything I want to. Who are they? And so on and so forth. But if you accept Ishvara and to find that there is in fact an overall structure, even though it is not to my liking, okay, but I abdicate my responsibility. If I do that, you have a better chance of making your karma yoga more effective to yourself.
So are you saying, like if I transcribe it in my head, so are you saying that if even a Bauddha would do karma and jnana devoid of Ishvara, but a person who's following Vedanta will do karma and jnana with the aid of Ishvara?
So. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is the divergence
That
between...
is absolutely, yes. Because you're much more, it's a help to you. It's a fact also, more factual, because it was created by someone. My karma indriyas and jnana indriyas in the very beginning that I said were given to me by who? Not my father and mother. They also were created by somebody. It was my Ishvara. So that is okay, now I didn't finish so I said that Bhakti Yoga is an aid to both Karma Yoga as well as to Jnana Yoga. So I've already discussed a little bit about the Karma Yoga. Let's look about the Jnana Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is important for Jnana Yoga because the subtlety of this knowledge is not easy to understand. Not easy. I keep getting tripped up and having doubts and so on and so forth. This is where Mananam and Nididhyasanam are all important. There also the Bhakti Yoga is important because you bring Ishvara as your support and say, please, can you make me accelerate my understanding as much as possible? And so a scent of devotion. So going back to the efficacy of Bhakti Yoga in both Karma Yoga as well as Jnana Yoga comes from my understanding of Ishvara as Nirguna Brahma or Saguna Brahma. With Saguna Brahma, it is the aid to Karma Yoga. As Nirguna Brahma, it is an aid to Jnana Yoga. This is how it is. Because Ishvara is present in my life both as the controller of the Anatma as well as the existence of the Atma, which is me. Nirguna Brahma. And the Saguna Brahma, which all my experiences of life. So the Bhakti Yoga is important for both of them. But as a separate entity, it is not there in the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita. There are only two elements in the Bhagavad Gita, which is Karma Yoga and Jnana. Any other questions? Good. Okay. We'll see you next week. Thank you.